Level 1, the Courier. You are 23 years old and the stone in your sock has been there for 6 hours. It doesn't feel like a diamond should feel. No weight, no coldness, no sense of the $11,000 sewn into a seam against your ankle. You just feel your own pulse there instead, tapping against something that isn't yours yet and might never be. The airport smells like every airport does. Recycled air and burnt coffee. And you walk through security the way you rehearsed in a mirror 3 nights running. Shoulders loose, eyes forward but not too forward. A man in Antwerp told you customs agents don't look for nervous people, they look for people trying too hard not to look nervous. You didn't fully understand that sentence until you were the one trying to obey it. You got into this the ordinary way, which is to say the way nobody warns you about. A cousin's friend needed someone with a clean passport and no criminal record, someone forgettable. You had both of those things and a rent payment due in 4 days. The first run paid $900 for a flight you'd have taken for free out of curiosity alone. You didn't ask where the stone came from. You learned fast that the not asking is the actual job. You land in Dubai and a man you've never met picks you up from an arrivals hall, wearing a shirt the exact shade you were told to look for. He doesn't shake your hand. He says one word, good, and takes an envelope from you that you didn't know you were carrying until that moment. Because somewhere between the plane and the taxi, you stopped thinking of it as a package and started thinking of it as a passenger riding inside your own body. You do 4 more runs in the next 2 months. Antwerp to Dubai, Dubai to Mumbai. Once a rougher stone straight from a mine you'll never see the name of, in a country you'll only ever know as a rumor someone mentioned once at dinner. Each time the fee climbs, each time the sock gets a little heavier, a little more expensive, a little further from something you could explain to your mother if she asked what you did for a living. She doesn't ask. You've noticed she stopped asking around the same time your apartment got nicer. Level 2, the route. 6 months in, you stop being the courier and start being the route. That's the word the man in the shirt uses one night over a beer you didn't order. You're not carrying stones anymore, not personally. You're the person who decides which airports are soft this month, which customs officers rotate out on Tuesdays, which flights have layovers long enough to make a swap invisible. You learn the geography of the trade the way other people learn a second language, as in fragments, out of necessity, badly at first. Rough diamonds move differently than cut ones. A rough stone from a conflict zone needs a paper trail before it can exist anywhere legitimate, a Kimberley process certificate that can be bought almost as easily as it can be forged. You learn which countries ask questions and which ones only pretend to. You learn that Dubai's free zones move more uncut stone in a year than most people believe possible, and that nobody in that market particularly wants to know where any single stone began its life. Your first real test comes at 3 in the morning in a Mumbai hotel room, staring at 11 stones spread across a hand towel, trying to grade them by candlelight because the client insisted on no electric light in the room. You don't have a jeweler's loupe yet. You use a phone camera zoomed in past what it was built for, squinting at inclusions you can't name, guessing at clarity the way a med student guesses at a diagnosis they've only read about. You get it wrong on 2 stones. The buyer notices. He doesn't yell. He just adjusts the price down without discussion, and you understand that the silence costs you more than the money does. You buy a real loupe after that. 10-power magnification, the kind actual gemologists use. You practice on cheap stones a jeweler friend sells you for the purpose, grading them over and over until color and clarity stop being guesses and start being facts you can defend. 3 months later, you catch a buyer trying to pass a treated stone as natural. You catch it because of the loupe, because of the practice, because of the 2 stones you got wrong in a dark hotel room that you never let yourself forget. Your network grows the way trust always grows in this world. Slowly and then suddenly all at once. A supplier in Antwerp starts calling you directly instead of going through the man in the shirt. A buyer in Mumbai asks for your number specifically. You are becoming a name people say instead of a face people forget, and you're not sure yet whether that's a promotion or a target painted on your back. Level 3, the cut. You take your first meeting with an actual mind contact 11 months in a hotel bar in a city you agreed never to name out loud, even to yourself. He's not what you expected. No swagger, no theater. Just a tired man with dust permanently under his fingernails who talks about tonnage the way an accountant talks about spreadsheets. He explains, flatly the way you'd explain rainfall, that the stones move out through a network of small-scale diggers, that a certain percentage never gets declared to any government, that this percentage is not a secret to anyone who matters. It's simply the part of the business nobody writes down. You start handling volume you couldn't have imagined a year ago. Rough stones by the kilo instead of by the stone. Money that used to arrive in an envelope now arrives through 3 different shell accounts before it reaches anything resembling your own name. You hire your first real associate, a woman fluent in 4 languages who used to work customs herself, before she decided the other side paid better and asked fewer questions of her conscience. The first real fear comes on a Tuesday. A shipment gets flagged at a border you were assured was soft. Nothing happens to you personally, you're 2 countries away by the time the call comes in. But you spend 6 hours unable to eat, running the math on how much of the operation traces back to your name, specifically if someone starts talking. You learn that fear in this business doesn't announce itself with sirens. It announces itself as a phone that won't stop buzzing and a silence on the other end that lasts 1 second too long. The shipment gets released 2 days later. Someone paid someone. You never learn exactly who, and you understand by now that not learning is its own kind of survival skill. Level 4, the supplier. 14 months in, you stop being the person who moves stones and become the person other people move stones for. You have 3 regular mind contacts now, each unaware of the other's existence, each believing they are your only real supplier. You keep it that way on purpose. The man who taught you the business once told you the day everyone in your network knows everyone else is the day you become replaceable. And replaceable is the only real danger in this trade. You set up your first legitimate front, a small jewelry wholesaler with an actual storefront, actual tax filings, actual customers who have no idea their engagement rings share a supply chain with stones that never saw a government stamp. The business is real enough to survive an audit and small enough that nobody bothers auditing it closely. This is the trick you've learned that took the longest to understand. Legitimacy isn't about being honest. It's about being boring enough that nobody looks twice. Money starts moving in volumes that stop feeling like money and start feeling like weather. Something that happens around you rather than something you consciously control. You buy a house through 3 layers of ownership that don't lead back to your name. You still drive the same car you bought in year 1 on purpose because a supplier who upgrades his car draws more attention than one who doesn't. You meet a buyer from a major cutting house in Surat, one of the largest diamond processing hubs in the world, and he offers you a standing contract. Regular volume, regular price, no negotiation drama every time. It's the kind of offer that turns a criminal enterprise into something closer to an actual business, complete with quarterly expectations and disappointed emails when a shipment runs late. You realize somewhere in the middle of that first quarterly call that you have built something with a supply chain, a customer base, and a return client rate better than most legal startups manage in their first year. Level 5. The cartel. 2 years in, the man in the shirt introduces you to people whose names you're told never to say out loud, not because it's forbidden exactly, but because saying them signals you know more than you should. You're brought in not as a courier anymore, not even as a supplier, but as infrastructure. The person who makes an entire regional pipeline function without any single visible seam. You manage 6 mine contacts now across 3 countries. You oversee cutting arrangements, laundering routes through free trade zones, and a paperwork operation so convincing that legitimate jewelry retailers in 3 different countries are unknowingly selling stones that began their life 100 feet underground in a pit that no government inspector has ever visited. The Kimberley process was supposed to stop exactly this. You've learned firsthand how much daylight exists between what a system is supposed to catch and what it actually catches. You stop thinking in stones and start thinking in tonnage, in quarterly volume, in exchange rate fluctuations that can cost or save you 6 figures depending on which week a shipment clears. You hire an actual accountant now, someone who believes she's structuring international trade finance for a legitimate gem importer, and technically, on paper, she's right. The first time someone threatens you directly, it isn't dramatic. It's a phone call from a rival supplier upset about territory, a flat voice explaining, without raising itself once, exactly what happens to people who take clients that were never theirs to take. You don't sleep that night. You also don't back down, because backing down in this world isn't a de-escalation. It's an invitation. Level 6, the offer. 3 years in, a legitimate international mining conglomerate reaches out through a lawyer, of all things, wanting to formalize a supply relationship with your front company. They know exactly what your front company is. They simply prefer not to know it out loud, the way a hotel prefers not to know exactly what happens in certain rooms. You realize the line between the legal diamond trade and the world you actually operate in is thinner than any documentary ever suggested, more a matter of paperwork than of actual practice. You turn the offer down, not because you're afraid of it, but because formalizing means visibility, and visibility means the one thing that has kept you alive this long. Being nobody's headline disappears. You've watched two other suppliers take similar offers and vanish quietly from the trade within a year, either into prison or into something worse that nobody discusses at industry gatherings. You keep operating in the space between legal and illegal, in the room the whole global diamond trade quietly agrees not to look at too closely. You employ, directly and indirectly, over 60 people now across 4 countries. Miners, cutters, couriers, accountants who believe half-truths, customs contacts who believe full ones. Somewhere in the last 3 years, you stopped being a smuggler in the way you understood that word at 23, in a bathroom, sewing a single stone into a sock. You became something closer to a shadow supply chain, running parallel to the legitimate one, occasionally crossing it, mostly invisible to everyone except the people who need you. Level 7. The weight. You are 27 years old. You've moved, by conservative estimate, over $40 million in uncut stones through hands that were never supposed to hold them. You sit in an office now, in a city you can finally admit to yourself, looking at spreadsheets instead of stones, and you notice you don't feel anything looking at numbers that would have terrified you 4 years ago. A courier calls you, panicked, mid-20s, voice shaking exactly the way yours did in an airport bathroom 4 years back. A shipment's been flagged. She doesn't know what to do. You talk her through it in the same flat, practiced voice the man in the shirt once used on you, and you hear yourself becoming him in real time. The same detachment, the same certainty, the same complete absence of the fear that used to define every single run. You hang up and sit in the silence after. You think about the sock, the 6-hour flight, the pulse against your ankle that felt like the only honest thing in your life at the time. You think about the diggers you've never met whose names you'll never know, whose labor built the empire sitting in your spreadsheets. You think about the word legitimate and how far you've traveled from ever needing it to describe yourself. Somewhere tonight, a 23-year-old with a clean passport and a rent payment due in 4 days is being handed an envelope by someone in a shirt the exact color they were told to expect. They don't know yet what it costs to become the person handing out envelopes instead. You already know. You just don't know anymore if knowing changed anything.